Okay, any specific questions before we get back to Zmanim? Any general questions, I should say. I can turn it off.
No. Fine.
Is it an interesting question?
Like, I'm not sure where the boundaries are.
Let's try it.
Okay. I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
It's a very personal question for you, okay?
No, it's not personal. It's not personal. But it's just like one of those. It's kind of cringy. I'd rather not. I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
So you have to include all of this in the video, right?
It's like asterisks, double asterisks.
Okay. Okay. Well, in that case, we won't have that question. We won't be zocher. I talked already about Zmanim the past couple of weeks, and I want to go a little bit further with that. The question in halacha is the question of sha'os zemaniyos. Now, sha'os zemaniyos is taking the day and dividing it into 12 equal parts, taking the night and dividing it into 12 equal parts, if necessary, but it's usually not necessary at night. But taking the day specifically and using that in order to determine to what time you can say Shema, to what time you can say Shmoneh Esrei, to what time you can begin to daven mincha, what time you use plag haminchah, and so on and so forth. So the sha'os zmanim is a very interesting concept. First of all, the question is if they exist. So today Yoshua claims the Rambam made them up because they don't. The Gemara never mentions sha'os zmanim. Gemara never says take the day and divide it into 12 in order to get 1/12 of the day being an hour. So Bnei Yeshua suggests that in fact they had 60-minute hours from the get-go and nothing to do with dividing the day up in 12.
Who suggests this?
Bnei Yeshua. Others as well. I don't know that. However, how a sundial works. But I suspect the sundial works with sha'os zemaniyos, not with 60-minute hours, but rather with how the sun traverses the sky, and therefore it's going to be a different hour in the summer than it is in the winter.
I'm actually somewhat of an expert in this topic.
Cool.
I'm very into horology. That's not always the case with sundials. Different, civilizations had different ways of measuring the sun. Some would divide it in thirds. Some would divide the whole time frame in regards to sundials is very different for every civilization.
So, it's very different. But the question is: does anybody?
But it does. A sundial does change the day based on where you are located on Earth.
Right, that's the rabbi's point.
Well, that's my point. Is that wouldn't you have to constantly adjust the sundial in order to get equal 60-minute hours out of it? In other words, in the winter, 60-minute hours take much longer than 1/12 of the day, and vice versa.
Well, yes and no. The closer you are to the equator.
Yeah, an equator, it's always 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Further away. Yeah.
What sundials? What Chazal used to measure time primarily?
I assume so. How else do they measure time? I mean, they use rough estimates, obviously.
There's tons of stuff.
Water clocks, sand clocks, and stuff.
Yeah,
Those would be more or less constant.
They don't actually mention how they kept time. It's never mentioned how they kept time, so I don't know. But I would assume that most people kept time by the sun. The Gemara talks about Psachim, talks about how it's afternoon by looking up at the sun, right? It's a certain time of day by looking at the sun. So I don't know if it's sundials per se or sighting the sun, but I don't know any other way which is mentioned in Chazal of keeping time. So now, but the thing is like this. The question is, divide the day into 12. When does the day begin? When does it end? So according to Rabbeinu Tam, and this is the Magen Avraham and others, the day begins at Ohr Somayach, at dawn, and ends at Seis HaKochavim, at the nightfall of 3 stars, meaning in this, however, according to him, meaning 72 minutes, absolute nightfall. And then the question becomes, how to determine Ohr Somayach and Seis HaKochavim? Because in halacha, Ohr Somayach and Seis HaKochavim are somewhat lopsided. Ohr Somayach is dawn is relative to sunset is a longer gap than sunset relative to the Shabbos being over. So, according to the Ben Ish Chai, who actually speaks about this, the day is lopsided. 6 hours into day is never going to come out at high noon. It can't, because you're dividing a lopsided day into 12 hours. According to others, the question also rises, which time of the Magen Avraham do you use? Do you use the time of Magen Avraham which says 18 minutes per meal, or 22.5 minutes per meal, or 24 minutes per meal? Is it fixed or not fixed? And therefore, determining sha'os zmanei according to Magen Avraham wreaks havoc. Right? It could never, because you never can be sure precisely whether the sha'os zmanei you kept is halachically correct or and appropriate to use. So we have the Gra and the Baal HaTanya both say that you could measure the sha'os zmanei from sunrise to sunset. These are convenient because they're absolute, right? Sunrise is an absolute time, sunset is an absolute time. You take that time and divide it in 12, you'll get a sha'os zmanei. Normally nowadays, when you look at a luach and you see the time given for Magen Avraham Shema, which it's exactly 36 minutes earlier than the Gra time, year round, because they actually take 72 minutes and make it. They take the 72 minutes before sunrise as being dawn, and 72 minutes after sunrise as being Seisa Kochavim, being nightfall, and they divide that in 12. And if you take 3 hours of that versus 3 hours of the time between sunrise and sunset, it comes out 36 minutes earlier. Okay? So that's why the Magen Abraham's time is always 36 minutes earlier than the time, at least the time we ascribe to Magen Abraham, than the time we ascribe to the Gra. Now, the idea of 3 hours or 4 hours is the time which you could say Shema for say Shema 3 hours, and 4 hours the time you could say Shemona Esrei. The thing is like this. Somebody asked me the other day. I really did not have a very good answer, to be honest, about what's the difference between davening Shemona Esrei before 4 hours and davening Shemona Esrei before 6 hours. Now I know the Gemara says that before 4 hours you get the schar of tefillah b'zmano, right? And after 4 hours you don't get the schar of tefillah b'zmano, right? It's a tefillah not at the proper time. But that in of itself begs the question: what is the difference between tefillah b'zmano and tefillah which is not b'zmano? What is the difference between davening at its proper time and davening not at its proper time? So I don't know for sure what the difference is, but my theory is that in Kabbalah we understand that there are different times in heaven when you can activate certain powers or certain forces, and therefore we assume that tefillah b'zmano is more effective in activating those powers and forces than a tefillah not at its proper time.
Why can't you say straight? It's a separate mitzvah, tefillah b'zmano.
Because they're all the Rabbanan, so it's hard to say the two levels of the Rabbanan. But you know,
Why not? You could say that the Rabbanan made the ideal mitzvah. Like
but
that,
what?
and
So what's?
But
why? Why would they divide it up that way? Okay, so that's the question. What are they accomplishing with that? So as I'm saying, I think that there's we look at tefillah as being effective vis-a-vis heaven. So therefore, a tefillah at the right time it's much more effective than a tefillah at the wrong time. Any tefillah can be effective any time. But there's the Chazal Maseches Brachos say, just like their mishmaros, the watches on earth, so too the watches in heaven, and each watch has a different purpose. So therefore, davening at the proper time invokes the proper purpose. Davening at the wrong time does not invoke the proper purpose. Now, if you do daven after 4 hours into the day, Shemona Esrei. By the way, until I was in the Mir in Brooklyn, in Eretz Yisrael, which was in 1983, 84. I never met a yeshiva bacher who slept till 2 in the afternoon. That was a what?
Who slept?
Till 2 in the afternoon.
I know the one.
Yeah, it was a new phenomenon. But it was a new phenomenon. To me, it was a new phenomenon. To me, it was a new phenomenon. I thought everybody gets a chakras. You know, if they don't get a chakras, they miss once in a while. Okay, but this guy, no. Every day he got up at 2 in the afternoon.
When he went.
Since then, I've met many people like that. But it was a shock. I didn't realize that people actually did that. So what happens to get up at 2 in the afternoon?
That when you found that out, were you like sleeping until 2 for that month after?
No. I couldn't believe human beings slept that long. So what happens if you do get up late? So if it's before 4 hours, you can still daven normal. If it's after 4 hours into the day, before noon, in that 2 hour window, you can't say Birkos Kriya Shema anymore. Because Kriya Shema that's one ramification in halacha. The difference between Zman tefillah and tefillah b'zman and not tefillah b'zman. According to most poskim, there are poskim who are makel. There are some lenient ones, but according to most poskim, you can't say Birchas Kriya Shema after 4 hours. It's part of the takana of tefillah b'zmana, part of the institution of tefillah b'raya at proper time, and therefore after that you don't say them. Yeah.
What about on Shabbos, when a lot of shuls they have Shabbos after Zman Kriya Shema? And I know
And after
for a
Zman
fact-
tefillah.
Sometimes after Zman Tefillah.
Right.
But even I'm saying for a fact, I know that
Don't
they
daven with
say the
What?
Kriya Shema.
Don't daven with them. Daven
Saying-
b'yechidus.
My question is,
What?
what's the reason for
Seriously?
better to daven,
Yeah.
not to wait for the minion?
No.
Even if it's within Zman Tefillah, but not Zman Kriya Shema?
What?
No,
No,
Zman,
I'm
but it's
saying
Zman tefillah, yes. But if you start at 10 o'clock in the summer, you're missing Zman tefillah.
But I'm saying specifically, say within Zman Tefillah, but after Zman Kriya Shema. But they say brachas of Kriya Shema.
No, they can say Baruch Kriya Shema during that 4th hour. That's
Why?
okay.
They don't get the Shema.
Doesn't matter if you get the Shema. Baruch Kriya Shema are related to tefillah more than
Okay.
the Shema itself.
Then after Zman Tefillah,
You can't say
you
them.
cannot say
Right, because then they only left with Shemona Esrei. Okay? So a person who gets up that late, between 4 and 6 hours in the day, should only say, go from, they can say Baruch to Yishtabach, they can say Shema itself, but they can't, then they have to go straight to Shemona Esrei. That has never happened to me. Who knows? Maybe someday, but so far not. So that's the for Zman of davening in the morning. Now at Chatzos, afternoon starts, but you still can't daven mincha until half an hour after Chatzos. One of the things that nobody knows and has never been resolved is whether that half hour is 30 minutes or half of a sha'os manis. Meaning, you account from the time of midday, 30 minutes, whatever midday is. Let's say, obviously, now they daven on Friday here at 12:40, so let's say around 12:10 is midday, right? So therefore, you count 12, half an hour from 12:10, and they get 12:40, or you count half a sha'os manis, which let's say, for argument's sake, right now is 50 minutes, and then that'll be 25 minutes, and 25 minutes would be 12:35. There is, nobody knows. It's a great thing about Judaism, right? We can be centuries, millennia into it, and we still don't know. So the chumrah, you certainly, it's appropriate to be machmir. Now, at different times of the year, different ones come out of the chumrah, right? Because sometimes in the winter, half an hour on the clock is going to be a chumrah. In the summer, half a sha'os manis is going to be a chumrah. So if there's a big machlokes that place come in, it's better to be machmir. From that time, you can daven mincha. That's called mincha gedola. Okay, some in yeshivas they usually daven mincha gedola, but it's mostly for convenience sakes. In yeshivas, let's go off on a tangent. Not Ohr Somayach. Yeshivas also normally daven, at least very from yeshivas, daven a short, abbreviated mincha. They daven just the what's called the hecha kedusha. They say the first 3 brachos out loud, and then the rest of Shemona Esrei silently. Ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, they do kedusha, right? Like they do the chazaras shots before the.
Right, the Chazal that's up to
I
Kedusha.
saw that one time, but it's because they were getting close to the.
Right. So it happens like this. If you're getting close to Shkia,
Okay.
that's a good time to do this. You're getting close to sunset. So what you do is, you say Ashrei, you say Kaddish, then the Shliach Tzibur says the first 3 brachos until Hakel HaKadosh out loud. And then that way they can all say Kaddish, Kedusha with him.
Okay.
Okay, so then the question is the question is, and then the rest of Shemona say silently. Okay, there's a question.
You go back to the start of
No, there's a question. That's my question. Difference between Machlokas and Mishnah and Aruch Shulchan, whichever way you want to do it, you can do it. Should you, as an individual in such a meeting, start Shmoneh Esrei with the Chazan, or the more normative custom is to start Shmoneh Esrei only after he does kedusha. Okay, but
who's for who?
What?
Who's for which opinion?
Aruch Shulchan start together. The Mishnah were to start afterwards. The Aruch Shulchan doesn't see this as a chazaras sha'os at all. Therefore, he says, in fact, the shliach tzibur should not say l'dor v'dor. And the Nusach Hashkar says it should say atal kadosh, because it's really just saying sh'masan sh'masrei aloud. It's not a true chazaras sha'os. Now, in the yeshivas, like the right-wing yeshivas, which are direct descendants of Volozhin, they do that, and they say shehecha kedusha, as it's called, abbreviated form of Shmoneh Esrei for mincha. They say that the Netziv instituted this because people were talking, the people had just had come from the shiur, and they were talking and learning during chazaras sha'os. So since they were talking and learning during chazaras sha'os, they figured, listen, we can't stop them from talking, so let's just not do chazaras sha'os. Let's eliminate it and just do up to kedusha. The Rambam, they say, wanted to, I don't remember where, but the Rambam wanted to eliminate chazaras sha'os as well. But he did not get away with it.
What's his reason?
It's not necessary anymore. Everybody knows how to daven. Why have chazaras sha'os?
I don't know. Lots of people don't know how to daven.
What do you mean? Nobody's listening to shliach tzibur word for word in order to be yotzei.
Maybe they should be told to be yotzei.
Maybe, but they're not. So now the chazaras sha'os is kind of superfluous.
Isn't there also a thing of like it's for people in the field or whatever?
I
So
mean-
what if you're working all day? You can't.
So your part of the design do chazaras sha'os doesn't do any good.
No.
No,
You
chazaras
can't
sha'os
be-
only people can hear it. Yeah,
Speak for yourself. I don't know.
speaking about what for myself?
Not trying to be yotzi.
You're trying to yotzei with the shliach tzibur. He doesn't have mind to be yotzei you, so it doesn't work.
Wait, what?
The
I
shli-
davened mincha a few times.
You had a mind to be yotzei people?
Yeah.
You're a big tzaddik. Okay. You're going to be yotzei a bracha with somebody if that person has a mind to be motzi you the bracha. So even if
Make
you,
sure the news around. Yeah.
okay, so even if you want to listen to somebody, the chazaras sha'os, if somebody he has to have kavanah to be motzi you. Okay. So anyway, so later on, this became this minhag was divorced from the reality of people speaking and learning, and it stuck as a minhag. And many yeshivas do today, especially ones which have secular studies in the afternoon, do it to save time. In other words, let's make mincha shorter so we can get more into the afternoon. This is not a good thing. Rav Yosef writes against this in very stark terms. First of all, it's bad chinuch. Besides being bad chinuch, it also it takes away a lot of the chazaras sha'os and the ameis, etc., which one could have had otherwise. But nevertheless, if you go to most yeshivas nowadays of a right-wing Ashkenazic nature, they do not say a full mincha, only the heicha kedusha, as it's called. Now, moving right along. The primary time to have mincha is by according to most poskim, although in the yeshivas they don't abide by this, is mincha ketana. Mincha ketana is 2.5 hours before shkia. Now there's a strange thing which is Rabbi Yehuda in the Gemara Brachos talks about called plag haminchah. Plag haminchah is an hour and a quarter before shkia. So you have mincha ketana, which is 2.5 hours before shkia. And plag haminchah, which is an hour and a quarter before shkia. Rabbi Yehuda holds that for all intents and purposes, 1.25 hours before shkia is nighttime, at least in terms of davening. Now, on some level, this makes sense because if you live in an era in which at sunset you roll up the carpets and go to sleep because you have no artificial light or no effective artificial light, so one could argue that that's already considered to be nightfall, the time of getting ready to go to bed. Because by the time night comes, you're not. That's it. You're finished. But the Gemara never determines whether Rabbi Huda is correct in saying plag on mincha is nightfall, or whether Rabban is correct in saying that no, shkia's possibly nightfall, but probably takes the kochavim, but definitely not plag on mincha. Yeah.
We passed by the road. That's what I learned. I think fourth parak in Brachos. That's what
No, not in this case.
No?
No. It says David Kamara David David Kamara David. And this means Allah on the books today. Now let's explain what that means. If you have a machlokes Gemara which is never resolved, that means you, in a case of a suffix d'oraisa, where it's a Torah question, you have to be machmir. In case of a rabbinic question, you can be lenient. So Shmona Esrei for nighttime is a suffix d'Rabbanan. The Shkriya Shema is a suffix d'oraisa. There's a Torah mitzvah to say Shema, the rabbinic mitzvah to say Shmona Esrei. So therefore, if you daven Mariv after plag, before Shkia, you don't have to repeat the Shmona Esrei. If you don't repeat Shmona Esrei later on, because Safik Rabbanan L'Kula. I'm relying on the Rabbi Yehuda. But since Shriya Shema is a Doraisa, so therefore I do have to repeat Shema later on. Because in Safik Doraisa, I have to be stringent. In the case of Safik Doraisa, therefore I have to say Shema after definite nightfall.
Can you say the brachas of Shema?
When?
Before Shkia?
Yes, because the brachas have to do with Marav, like we said. They have to do with the Shmona Esrei. So therefore, yes, you do say before Shkia. So this, now, let's say a person wants to accept Shabbos early, right? The earliest time you can accept Shabbos, if you stand today and say, I want to accept Shabbos right now. So you're out of your mind, and it certainly doesn't work, right? If you wanted to say Friday morning, you want to accept Shabbos now. You're out of your mind, and it certainly doesn't work. The earliest time you can accept Shabbos is plag haminchah, right? An hour and a quarter before sunset. Now, that means that a woman cannot bench licht and be makabel Shabbos by benching licht, by lighting candles, until after plag haminchah. If a woman can't light later on, tough luck. But you can't light before because it's a meaningless gesture. It's like lighting the candles on Thursday. So, and you can't accept Shabbos earlier than that. On the other hand, you can accept Shabbos after plag haminchah, but it's only Tosefes Shabbos. And were you to commit a capital offense of Shabbos during that time, you would not get capital punishment. Because it's like a neder. You accept the Shabbos upon yourself. It's not actual Shabbos. You have to accept Shabbos early, but it doesn't become actual Shabbos, and therefore we wouldn't put you to death. In fact, there's an interesting question which is discussed. What happens if you makabel Shabbos early at plag haminchah, and you forgot that you didn't count Sfiras Omer that day? Can you count Sfiras Omer after Mariv because it's still the daytime, or is it for you it's night already? If I recall correctly, and I'm not sure, you can count because it's still considered to be, even though you accepted Shabbos early, you accepted Shabbos early.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I was thinking about also, if a woman accepts Shabbos earlier than her husband, can he annul her acceptance?
No.
You said it's like a neder.
What? It's like a neder, but
Yeah.
since the mitzvah to Tosefes Shabbos, you can't annul it. Because you're supposed to do a mitzvah by it. It's an interesting idea, though. The idea of Tosefes Shabbos is theoretically should also impact upon your davening in the sense that you should not be able to daven mincha of Erev Shabbos and Marav Erev Shabbos in that period which you added onto Shabbos, which is called tartei desasre, a paradox. Here in Ohr Somayach in the summer, they daven mincha always at 7 o'clock, and they daven Marav before Shkia. So they want to have their cake and eat it too. They're davening mincha after plag, and davening Marav before Shkia. So there's no boundary which goes between the two. If you daven mincha before plag, and Marav after plag, you daven mincha before Shkia, and Marav after Shkia. So then it's not a paradox, because you're saying, for me today, and you could change every day back and forth. But you say, for me today, plag mincha is nightfall. So davening mincha before plag, and Marav after plag.
Why can't you say, like, have mincha after plag, and then the moment after mincha I accept Shabbos?
It doesn't matter,
Say,
because,
like, Shabbos.
right, you can accept Shabbos, but you can't have a Marav.
Why not? It's Shabbos.
What?
But Shabbos.
But you're diving. You're saying if you're ready to have mincha during this period, you're saying it's not Shabbos yet.
Like I thought.
I mean, it's not night
Shabbos is now the beginning of a new period for you.
It doesn't work that way for that. Listen, you're right. Aruch HaShulchan says like you. But Mishnah Berurah disagrees. Mishnah Berurah says you should never daven tartei d'sasrei. So you should always daven. He says Erev Shabbos because we can remake it, but the Mishnah Berurah says not to. And if I'm stuck in a situation, I'll usually like that where I have no choice in the matter. So I'll usually daven mincha yechidus and then daven marib with the tzibur. So it won't have mincha yechidus before plag mincha. Now, of course, here you can go into early mincha, beginning after 12:30, 1:30, and daven mincha then, and then daven marib after plag much later on. But to do it in the same period, either between plag and shiur or between shiur and seis, both tefillos, is considered to be a tartei d'sasrei, and only in Erev Shabbos is there room for leniency. Yeah.
I've been in multiple shuls where Sunday daven mincha and they immediately daven marib, and it's like broad daylight outside. I
Right.
assume it's after plag.
Usually,
So this is
yeah.
tartei d'sasrei.
Usually it's after plag. They do
Right.
it. They do it plag. There is one shul. There are some shuls where they daven tartei d'sasrei every day because they're afraid they're not going to get a minyan, and they think that
Right,
getting a minyan
that's
is
the
more.
reason. Is this like a good practice?
No, it's a lousy practice. Unless it's between, usually a shul needs a minyan, but you don't have to participate in that minyan.
Right.
So if they're,
When I was there, I davened mincha with them, and then I went to marib.
So these are the questions why all shuls shut down, right?
no, they do it. Nobody cares really, except me. So and other people, but yeah. So I actually once, 30-some, I don't remember how many years ago, I think 25, was trying out for a position in a certain location, and I asked Rabbi Moshe Brown, who's one of the people I turned to, I need a psak, as my minhag was always again to daven mincha b'yechidas, if the shul is doing tartei d'sasrei, this paradoxical thing. I asked him, what should I do in this case? And he said, no, you should do the tartei d'sasrei. Because they see they're not davening mincha for them, you're not going to get the job. I didn't get the job anyway. But not because I didn't daven mincha together with them. Yeah.
Wasn't there that story? I forgot which called, but he wanted to daven like early, like Nates on Shabbos, and he just said mishnayos from memory, opening his siddur while he was with his congregation.
That's entirely possible.
What? And what?
He davened Nates,
Yes.
and then so that he wouldn't like embarrass his congregation, he would have his siddur in front of him, but he would just say mishnayos from memory.
It's Rabbi Brown.
I don't understand.
Who?
I forgot.
What
are these
I
stories?
really don't understand what he's saying.
You say that if a person davens, let's say I wanted to daven Shemona Esrei early,
Sure.
because the shul was doing it at the wrong time.
Okay.
So what I could do is afterwards I can pretend to be davening with them, but really be saying mishnayos. The girl in the school where I teach said to me that when the school's davening Shemona Esrei, she says,
Rabbi, you just opened a whole new world to me.
Oh, well.
Thank you, Danielle, for the story.
I don't know, but she said, anyway, this girl was a 7th grade girl, told me, a 6th grade girl, told me that during, when everybody's saying Shemona Esrei, so she says watermelon, 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 watermelon. And say watermelon over and over again, it looks like you're actually saying something. In other words, she whispers watermelon. She didn't want to daven Shemona Esrei.
Oh my god.
She didn't understand it. Nobody was checking over it. It was meaningless to her. Chinuch is chinuch is it's one of the many problems of chinuch we have today. Chinuch in education. We teach people to daven and they don't know the words that they're saying. So it's all mumbo jumbo time. So if you say mumbo jumbo, you might as well just say mumbo jumbo, mumbo jumbo, mumbo jumbo instead of the words in the siddur. It's much easier. Right?
I thought that only applied to the both Shul Bukharians.
That they say mumbo jumbo?
No, they don't understand the words they're saying.
Nobody understands the words they're saying.
Really?
In elementary school,
Oh.
they teach most people don't, myself included, because we're never taught the meaning of the words. We're never taught, so they ever go through life not knowing the meaning of the words.
So,
But yeah, 95% of clients are like that.
Whoa.
will this be the next series?
I don't know.
But
The series of the words and like knowing what everything means.
Sure,
That
no
would
problem.
be great.
The history of the
Just
field.
open up our school.
what?
But it's not the same.
Do you know what a pain it is? Look
It's
at
not the
it.
same. It's like literally not.
Yeah.
Even the
No,
Matsuda sitter is not the same.
one bracha a day. What do you mean?
No, but like I'm saying, like the translation is not the same as it would
It's
actually
also
mean.
often not literal.
Yeah.
Or
Many
what
times-
sitter?
The linear sitter is the best one, but if you can stand it. The
But
interlinear.
even that one's off. I used that one.
Yeah, they're all off a little bit. Because the translation is also commentary. What I wanted to say about that is that I tell people, and this is what they tell Bali Tshuva as well, that until you understand, I tell these kids, if you don't understand the words, just say it in English. So that's, and Mechanchim would probably disagree about that because they should be taught to say in Hebrew. But I think it's more more meaningful to have a meaningful tefillah than to say in words you understand. I want to end a bit early because I have to go somewhere. I want to have Marav at Chabad down at 6:15. But I wanted to end with this. I wanted to make this point. Rav Hutner has an interesting mashal. He says, you know, your father brings his kids to shul. I'm not saying I endorse the mashal completely, but it's a cute mashal. He says, your father brings your kids to shul, right? And your kid gets rambunctious, right? He's a little bit running around. So what do? Do you daven despite that with full kavanah and let your kid run around? Or you go and keep your kid quiet? What's the answer?
Do you respond to what?
Do you go and try and control your kid? Or you just daven and ignore your kid who's being a little bit wild?
Depends how wild it is.
So Rav Hutner said, he said, look at it in the long run. If you're going to go control your kid who's wild, so that's going to happen to the next generation as well, and the next generation as well, and nobody's going to ever down with kavanah because everybody's going to try and be watching their wild kids. So he said, better to down with kavanah, and then generation will down with kavanah, and the kids will pick that up eventually as well. So it's I don't say I agree with that. I said
100% correct.
okay. It's not. I know one.
There's a Rav in my shul. He has 10 kids.
Yeah,
They're all under 5 years old. No, maybe under 10 years old.
they're pretty neat.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So whenever his kids are speaking during Kaddish, he doesn't say a word. He just goes like this, like that, really seriously, like that. That's it.
I'll tell you.
They learn from it.
I'll tell you another
All
muscle.
quiet.
Just end with. It's not related, but it's cute. Also from Rav Hutner. He said. Rav Hutner said, "Why is the clock tower in a town always the tallest building?"
That's how people will tell time.
So you say. He said the conventional answer is that so everybody could see it, right? He said no, because if the clock tower was down at ground level, everybody would change the clock so it was in sync with their watch. That's a powerful muscle. Think about the ramifications. All right, we'll stop here.